Facebook is under fire once again after initially refusing to remove a photo of a murder scene. A victim in the picture, 43-year-old Jennifer Street Spears, was dead and was covered in blood at the time that her picture was posted on Facebook. Unbelievable. Well, it was uploaded to her page by her boyfriend, the alleged killer, who was also pictured in the shot, and he was bloodied. Facebook initially refused to take down that photo, saying they thought it was posted as a call for help from the victim and not from the killer. Let's talk to Lise Wheel. She's a Fox News legal analyst, and also Bob Bianchi, a criminal defense attorney, former head prosecutor, county prosecutor, and also a trial attorney. Thank you for joining us. Facebook under fire once again. Lise, can the family sue Facebook for keeping this up on her page for 36 hours?
As horrible as it sounds, no, they cannot. I mean, of course they can sue, but they're not going to recover anything.
Why not?
Facebook really has no duty to her or the family. It's out there. It's public. She signed a waiver before she went on Facebook. There's no duty. I mean, you could say emotional distress and all that, but there is no duty to protect her. And they did actually pull it down once they realized that it was not a call for help.
But Bob, this was posted on that page for 36 hours. This is actually how the family found out that she was murdered, and then police went in and were able to recover her body.
Yeah, at least listen, I mean, this was a very important tool, and it is true in the law enforcement environment. We have used Facebook on many occasions to solve homicide cases and other ones. Facebook is a public forum, but they let you know when you sign up it's a public forum, and not only can they allow the images to stay on, they can actually use the images that you placed on Facebook. So I agree.
They can use them?
They're allowed to use them in other venues. They're allowed to actually lift them from your Facebook account and use them for whatever promotional purposes that they want. So they're very, very covered legally with regard to this. But nevertheless, I've dealt with Facebook in criminal investigations, and sometimes they're very slow to respond, but very helpful, like they were.
As you said, helpful in the sense of, as you said, helpful in the sense that Facebook actually, they would argue, actually helped police bring this case to the fore and brought the officers to that apartment.
By the way, this is the same Facebook that has muted conservative news reports.
Correct.
But yet they decide to keep up this murder victim, bloody, dead, in her apartment for 36 hours when the family repeatedly asked them to take it down.
Yep, it's horrible, but you asked us a legal question.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me read a statement from Facebook. They said, we remove graphic images when they're shared to celebrate violence. As soon as it was clear what the facts were behind the photograph, we removed it. Good enough for
you know, Heather, that's been my experience too, that they actually take their time before they do it, so they've got that excuse as well.
Gosh, and just from my personal experience on some of these different websites, I mean, it can be difficult to get stuff taken down. If it's threatening violence or something like that, they might take it down more quickly, but there are other things that they allow to stay up there because they apparently don't deem it to be offensive. I want to ask you about another topic while we're here, and that is the gorilla at the Cincinnati Zoo, a major story right now. We are now getting word that Cincinnati police are investigating whether or not to file criminal charges in the killing of a gorilla at that city zoo. The gorilla was shot and killed in order to protect a little boy who entered its enclosure Saturday afternoon. That killing sparked a major public outcry against the zoo and also the boy's parents. Some are calling for action to be taken against the zoo, some calling for action to be taken against the family. Lise?
I don't see criminal charges being brought here because...
On which side?
On either side. I don't see criminal charges being brought against the parents. I don't see criminal charges being brought against the zoo. Civil charges will all depend on whether or not both the parents and or the zoo were reckless in what they did. The parents being reckless, did they push the kid out there? Did they, push him past those enclosures? As you can see, there he is. And the zoo, for their part, were they civilly negligent in their enclosures or lack thereof?
And Bob, what about, how does fencing come into play in this, as to whether or not it was high enough or provided enough protection?
Well, I think it's going to be a big problem because they had been previously cited for a polar bear issue that they had on another case that the fencing wasn't appropriate. Now they have this issue. So I agree with Lise. Let's make a distinction because I know your viewers are going to be very agitated at this. In the criminal law, there has to be an actual violation of the statute and there has to be direct causation. I don't see it against the zoo, and I know they're calling for the parents, but there has to be under Ohio law a substantial risk, known risk, and I think that any parent sending their kid to a zoo expects that that fencing is going to be sufficient enough enough to protect the child. Nevertheless, I agree with Lise, civil penalties, administrative penalties, because it is a tragedy that this animal had to be taken down as a result of it. I think the zoo made the right call there, because you know what, Lise?
Yep.
If the zoo didn't, and God forbid that child was harmed, the people at the zoo would have been charged with manslaughter under those circumstances.
Then there would have been criminal charges.
Do you see any legal culpability for the parents?
Civil culpability, but again, not criminal culpability. Now, there are a lot of people calling for the parents to be charged criminally, criminal negligence, putting the kid out there, child endangerment.
You just have to see, you'd have to know what happened with the parents. You have to know what the mom was doing at the time, because we all know as parents, those kids are slippery little suckers. They can get away in a hot second.
Forcing that kid, was she just throwing that kid?
And we haven't heard.
Don't know that.
And that happens in a lot of child endangerment cases. It has to be a substantial, unjustifiable risk. Parents sometimes don't maintain attention. You shouldn't just prosecute people for that.
We have to leave it there. Bob Bianchi and Lise Wheel, great to see you both. And thanks as always for your expertise, John.